I'm one of your fans. I've got to say this at the upfront to my viewers, because you're an engineer before you turned up in Parliament. You've always been really can-do. You promised me a few months ago when you got this portfolio that you'd actually do something. You'd try and sort out the mess. Tell me about these plans.
Oh, thanks, Peter. You're very kind. It's great to be with you. Great to be with your viewers. So today I've announced a $234 million package, the Murray-Darling Communities Investment Package, which means we are absolutely returning the focus from government back onto communities in the Murray-Darling. So there's a number of packages and policy changes within that program. One of the most significant ones is that I am unequivocally ruling out further buybacks from farmers and irrigators. Secondly, that we'll be splitting the Murray-Darling Basin to form a new Inspector General in terms of enforcement. Then that will include those people who are currently with the Interim Inspector General now.
So your current Inspector General, or the bloke that you've got in charge, Mick Kelty, people will remember him from being the head of the Australian Federal Police. Clearly he's done a good job because you're enlarging his role. Just on the water buybacks, this will be a big blue with the Greens and others. Are you up for the fight?
Always up for a fight, Peter, if it's the right fight. And this absolutely is. Now, I said to communities when I was put into the role that I would listen to them, that I'd wait for the reports, that we'd look at those in detail, and then that I would act. And I've acted today. I've acted in their interests and communities' interests. Look, I know the Greens are out there banging on already about efficiency programs and how they don't work, but the 2,000 gigalitres roughly that's already been recovered, more than 700 gigalitres from that has come from efficiency programs. So we're going to move to off-farm efficiencies. There'll be no further water buybacks from farmers because we know what it does to communities.
Yeah, just talk to me about efficiency programs, because people mightn't understand exactly what they are, and of course many Greens have never put their foot on a farm. Farmers understand if they've got a bit of water, particularly if it's in a dam, called a dam in Victoria, or a tank if you're up north, you guard it like it's gold. Tell me how they'll work, and that this is a key plank, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it's been a very important part of the Basin plan already. In its simplest form, if you look at irrigation channels, for example, which are not sealed, then there's losses which simply run out through the soil and go somewhere else. If you line those channels, if you stop evaporation, well, then you have much less loss than you normally would in order to deliver that water to where it gets used for farmers. So, I mean, that's a very simple example of an efficiency type measure. There's been a lot of on-farm efficiencies as well. I mean, Australian farmers are the most water efficient in the world. They're incredibly productive. It makes them more profitable. And we've certainly seen growth in a number of industries around the Murray-Darling Basin. But the announcement today is about giving certainty to those communities. I've listened to what's been put into the Sefton report and what's called the Weezer review, and the government has acted.
So we know we're having hit a recession this week with the national accounts. We know, trade will be incredibly important, particularly agriculture, to get out of the position we're in, or certainly to make this recession as sort of shallow and as short as we can make it. But you can't have agriculture if you can't have water. What's been the response of Basin communities, irrigators, farmers today?
Oh, there's been very positive response from the NFF, the VFF and others. Obviously, the Greens are against it, which tells me I must have it almost right. Fundamentally, I think there's a sigh of relief that we've listened. We said we would listen. I said I would listen. And we're getting on with it. I mean, the Kelty report was earlier in the year. I've accepted all 5 of those recommendations. We're acting on transparency and a single source of truth. We've acted on the Productivity Commission report from 2018 to shift the enforcement agents out of the Murray-Darling Basin Authority into a new Inspector General of Water Compliance. And we've put up significant funding for actual environmental programs, particularly in the southern parts.
All right, just before we go, just quickly, on the water transparency, I've been pretty critical of the government and in New South Wales too for not having a fair income register of who owns our water. Will we see that?
Well, we are waiting on the ACCC final report, which we expect later in the year. That'll go to the Treasurer. I think the water register has got great potential. It's certainly an element that we're looking at closely in government. I'll wait for those recommendations. The market is very complex. And it is something we need to act on. But Peter, while I've got the opportunity, if I could talk briefly about the Queensland border. It's just the people I know, all Australians, whether they're Queenslanders or not, just want fairness. And what the Premier in Queensland is doing right now says that if you have cancer, you can't see your oncologist. But if you want to come and see the AFL Grand Final for Melbourne, we'll come to the resort and have a game of golf. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is criminal. And I think that, it's dividing Australians at a time when this crisis, certainly the start of it, we're all in it together, we were told, but it brought us together, and I think now we're going backwards. Good luck with all of this. I want to talk to you about the Transparency Register, Keith Pitt, when you get that ACCC report. But well done so far. Let's get it implemented. Thank you for your time.
Great to be with you.